Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of Honey Bunches of Goats podcast. I'm your man, Kyle Ayala. I'm here with my boy, Raul.
Raul Navarrete.
What up, what up?
What up,
We got
guys?
KJ slash Keanu Ayala. Welcome back, guys.
Yeah, all right. Whatever, KJ. Anyways, just want to welcome you guys to our second episode. We covered a couple of things last episode. We obviously are a boxing-centric podcast, but we cover everything in sports. Anything and everything that's going on in the sports world right now. Before we start, I think we have to give some type of acknowledgement to the passing of Naazim Richardson, famed Philly boxing trainer, longtime trainer of Bernard Hopkins. He trained Shane Mosley also for a while as well. He's been a fixture in the Philly boxing circles, and it's sad. He had a stroke, I believe, in 2007.
2007.
Yeah, and it's sad because we're kind of getting to that age where a lot of people that we've seen in the in the sports world, they're starting to pass. We're getting to the age where we're starting to be more aware of the fragility of human life, and the mortality that anybody can pass away at any time. He lived a long life. He was well respected. Do you have any words to offer in regards to his passing?
Yeah, of course. Growing up watching Bernard Hopkins, Oscar De La Hoya, and all these fighters in that era. Of course, having him in Bernard Hopkins' corner and hearing his wisdom just led me to YouTube at that young age, just Bernard Hopkins workouts, other fighters' workouts. And when I used to research and do YouTube videos, when I used to see them, he will always have these wisdom words, and very intelligent person overall.
Yeah. He always was very particular with his words. Anytime I think we saw him, either during training camp or even during the fight, he always had a specific way of words. You could say a Philly man for sure. And he was very direct in all the instructions he gave to all his charges. And it's sad to see him go. We had guys like Eddie Futch, Bowie Fischer, which was his mentor. That kind of, and Angelo Dundee. Those era of trainers passed away during the 80s and 90s, and now they're proteges who are boxing sages as well. They're starting to get to the age where they're starting to have health issues, and unfortunately with Naazim Richardson passing away, he's one of the ones that part of that generation that is no longer with us. So we're gonna do a 10 count. I don't have a belt, unfortunately, but I'm gonna knock on the table. We're gonna have to make do. Hopefully he'll forgive us. But we'll do, a 10 count, for Naazim Richardson, longtime trainer of Shane Mosley and Bernard Hopkins. And let's take a moment of silence, guys. Naazim Richardson, may you pass on to the next life and, offer the Angels boxing advice as well. By the way, just want to throw that out there. He was also the guy who caught Antonio Margarito with the loaded hand wrap.
That's right.
Yeah. I almost forgot about that. I was rereading the ESPN article that happened with his passing. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? He was the one who actually spotted the plaster. That was crazy, right?
Caught Margarito in his tracks.
Red-handed.
Yeah.
Red-handed.
And you know what? That just goes to show the mentality and the smartness in him, just to pick up something that who would have known if Margarito had used this tactic before. You know, if it wasn't for him, God knows what Margarito could have been now. But
maybe he would have beaten Shane Mosley that night, and
Correct.
then probably, I mean, we all like to think that, you know, the opposing trainers would have catched it eventually, or would have caught it eventually. But who knows? Maybe he would have went into the match with Pacquiao with loaded wraps as well.
That's right.
So, you know, it's, you know, that he made a mark in boxing history, you know, and not only with his, you know, with his, you know, training and, you know, all the boxers over the years that became champions under his guidance, but, you know, he caught Margarito, you know, which was probably the most like egregious form of cheating we've seen since, you know, Panama Lewis with what was it, Aaron Pryor and Alexis Arguello. Panama Lewis was giving him supposedly he gave him like water mixed with like antihistamines and cocaine, which basically like will wake you up, give you energy, and like clear out your nasal passages so you can get more air in. And Panama Lewis also trained Louis Resto, that guy who I think he fought Billy Collins in the 70s. He fought. They took out padding from his gloves. So, you know, that's, you know, Margarito, what he did was right up there in terms of boxing cheating, you know. But you know what? Hey, you know, that's boxing, right? There's always going to be some type of controversy, you know, in some form or fashion. So, I mean, that's usually, you know, that's what, you know, we got to deal with, unfortunately, in boxing. I love boxing, don't get me wrong, but we all seen, you know, how it goes. You know, we talked about it the last episode about retired boxers trying to make a comeback. So it's official. We're going to have a exhibition match between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. Guys, what do you guys think? You know, it's crazy, you know, that's actually happening in 2020.
Well, if it's a fighter that I would like to see back from retirement and his age, it will be Mike Tyson. I can't think of anybody else that I would want to see past 50 except for Mike.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for this fight. Let alone it be an exhibition match. Fine, I'm up for it.
Yeah. What about you, KJ? What do you think? I know, you know, it's kind of like a little bit kind of before your time, but I'm pretty sure you've seen the highlights of Tyson, seen the highlights of Roy Jones, you know. So, hey, what do you think? Are you excited for this?
I mean, very excited. I actually have been watching him like on YouTube, his like greatest fights and like just highlights of him. Mm-hmm. And man, he was a monster. He was a beast. He was very fast, very elusive as well, from what I saw. And just seeing him training recently, oh man, what a fight! I'm actually wondering how Roy Jones is gonna come back from retirement and how he's gonna look at his age.
Well, I mean, he's been way more active than Tyson. He really? Retired in 2005. I believe Roy Jones' last fight was 2018 or 17. I'm not sure. I mean, well past his prime, of course, and fighting official matches, you know. So we might have to pause. Hold on one second.
We'll be back.
We're having a little technical issues real quick with our audio-video equipment, but we're back on. So, yeah, you know, it's going to be a heavyweight. Obviously, it's going to be a heavyweight match. Mike Tyson was the undisputed heavyweight champ, also youngest heavyweight champ of all time. But a very long time ago, unfortunately. Roy Jones was a middleweight, light heavyweight, you know, king.
Super middleweight.
Cruiserweight. But I don't think he competed for any belts at cruiserweight. Maybe, I'm not sure. But he beat John Ruiz for the heavyweight strap, I believe, in 2003. You know, then after that fight, then his career was never the same. That's when I think he fought I forgot his name. Wow, I'm tripping right now. But he fought Antonio Tarver. You know, he fought Antonio Tarver the first time. It was very close. And then in the second fight, you know, and this is at light heavyweight, Tarver, you know, knocked him out, clean out. And I think from that point on, Roy Jones was never the same. You know, he went through a couple of losses during that run after that. So he's already 50. He's past 50. Tyson is also past 50. But you know what? Hey, it's an exhibition match. We have Tyson, one of the best offensive heavyweight fighters of all time, versus Roy Jones, who at one point was probably the most talented boxer, or top 5 most, athletically gifted boxers of all time. And it should be interesting, both of them are a little older, probably have a little bit less defense, so we might see, people get smacked up. I have a hard time thinking whether it's going to be a slugfest or they're going to take it easy on each other. What do you think?
Ooh.
So with that being said, especially Mike, and how we all seen him throughout his career being so aggressive, even at some point biting somebody's ear off. You could pretty much tell by those clips he's not gonna go there just to touch up somebody. It's gonna be definitely some haymaker, uppercuts, basically Mike Tyson classic combinations.
Okay, so you think he's gonna go in then?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
What about you, KJ? What do you think?
Man, who knows? I mean, Roy Jones is 51, Mike Tyson is 54. So with age, who knows what will happen?
Yeah.
Probably be a toss-up.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm excited, though.
Well, it is what it is at this point. I just don't hope no one gets hurt. These
True.
guys are, already in their 50s. We don't need anyone to get hurt, especially Roy Jones. He's been knocked out a couple of times.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? Considering what 2020 has been like with the lack of sports and boxing, fuck it. I'll take a exhibition match with Tyson and Roy Jones. Who'd have thought us seeing a fight like that? Like I would have never thought that we would end up seeing something like that. It's crazy.
2020 for you.
Well, let's talk about the undercard.
Who's on the other guy? Oh,
Nate Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
And this YouTube.
And the famous YouTuber.
Jake.
Logan Paul.
Logan Paul.
Is it Logan
Jake?
or Jake? Who gives a shit?
Yes.
No one gives a shit.
I'm gonna flip your words and say the undercard. All the positive things you had to say about Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, how fuck it, we'll take it, and how we're excited to see it.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip that and say I'm definitely not looking forward to a Jake Paul and Nate Robinson exhibition match.
Yeah, I don't really give a shit, honestly.
We all want to watch it, though.
No.
No. I just want, listen, I like Nate Robinson. I have a lot of fond memories of when he was playing for the Bulls during that run in the early 2010s. That was fun to watch. And I've always liked Nate. When you're like the short guy in basketball, I always root for the short guy in basketball. I could give a shit less about Logan / Jake / Brent Paul or whoever the hell those guys are. I just hope that Nate Robinson knocks him the fuck out.
Yes,
that would be nice to see.
And like you mentioned, as an athlete, professional NBA player. Seeing his dunk contest, considering the factor in that scenario of him boxing against a YouTube star, I would think he has a lot of pressure on his shoulders because he definitely needs to put up I would say a clinic or a beatdown. Because if I was in his shoes, I definitely wouldn't want to get into a losing scenario against a YouTube star.
Regardless, both of them are non-boxers, so at the end of the day, who gives a flying fuck?
That's true.
But at least I'm hoping to see Logan, Jake, or Shannon Paul. I don't know.
Whatever his name.
Whatever that guy's name is, whichever brother. I don't give a shit. But I hope he just gets knocked out. Listen. It seems like boxing is trying to get its shit together. We have the UFC. Which is one promotion, one promotion that's doing all the fights. But the UFC, they had their Fight Island in Dubai. They had a couple of cards, pay-per-views and some fight night cards. One passed recently. I know we don't usually touch on UFC like that, but we had Robert Whittaker, beating Darren Till in a middleweight match. The other fights didn't really matter in the big picture of the UFC title contention, so I'm not going to mention those. But at least we saw Whittaker versus Darren Till, who was making his middleweight debut, and Whittaker, the former middleweight champion of the UFC. Basically, I mean, he got dropped in the first round, gathered himself, and then eventually, took the fight to Darren Till. It was a good fight. I won't say like fantastic. It was a good fight. Robert Whittaker is rarely in a bad fight, and Darren Till is also pretty. Although the fight before this one, it wasn't that good. It was kind of boring with Darren Till. It was Darren Till and Kevin Gastelum. That was kind of boring considering both of them are exciting fighters. But Till lost. Till was moving on from welterweight. I don't know where he's going to be right now. I think he wants to stay at middleweight. It's an easier weight cut for him. But, we'll see how it goes for the future for him. He lost to Whittaker, so now he has a ways to go in a middleweight division that has a lot of contenders. Yoel Romero being one of them as well. So, Whittaker's back in the picture. Probably going to get maybe not a title shot next, but who knows? Maybe if they get Adesanya versus Costa on board faster than normal, he might be, going for a rematch by the end of the year. Whittaker with Adesanya if he wins, or Costa and Whittaker. That would be also a good match too. But boxing, like I said, is getting shit together now. We have PBC. They released their schedule. Looking at it right now, we have a couple. Actually, a pretty decent list of fights. I'm gonna go one by one according to date. I'm gonna go by the interesting matchups. David Benavidez is the I think he's the champion right now at super middleweight. So I believe he beat Andre Dirrell's brother, the other Dirrell brother.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna have to look that up. Hold on. Let's see. Andre Dirrell's brother. Well, he was the champion at 168. Anthony Dirrell. Yeah. So Anthony Dirrell was actually the super middleweight champion, and he lost his belt to David Benavidez. So he also fought Badou Jack. Actually, he fought a lot of pretty decent fighters. He has a pretty decent resume. But so he lost the belt to David Benavidez, and now we have David Benavidez versus Romer Alexis Angulo, who I don't know much of. I personally think that Benavidez is going to win, so we'll skip that. Let's go directly to September 19th, Erickson Lubin versus Terrell Gasha. We actually saw this fight live. I don't know if you guys remember. We were at Barclays the second time.
Oh, really?
When they had that triple header.
Correct.
It was and that night, Lubin, who was highly touted prospect, got pushed up way too fast and got knocked out by Jermell Charlo.
Yes, that's right.
And actually, you know what? I have to make sure because I always get Jermell and Jamal. I always get confused. I know one is at 154 and the other one's at 160. Let's go look at that real quick.
Yes, and meanwhile you look this up. I remember that fight now, thinking back to it clearly. I was ringside for that fight too. Mm-hmm. And after the fight, both camps started getting into it.
Yeah.
And all I see is a
the crazy fight. I remember that. Yeah.
It's coming back to me. All I see is a chair just swinging by through the air, hitting somebody, and then all of a sudden it's chaos. Cops are running to grab the guy that threw the chair, people running. And after that, I said, you know what? No, let me go back to the suite because that was pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah, you wanted to get a better look in the front, right? Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that night. It was crazy. It was a triple header. It was a lot more boring than I expected considering the matchups.
Wait, he lost to Jermell Charlo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he got knocked out in the first round, Erickson Lubin, right? And then the part of the triple header too was Terrell Gasha versus Erislandy Lara, and it was boring. Unfortunately, Cuban fighters have the tendency to be in really awful fights that they dominate. I mean, Lara did have that exciting fight with what was his name?
He didn't he have a pretty good match against Austin Trout?
Which one? Lara?
Yeah.
You know what? I gotta double check that. I know that Austin Trout fought both Charlo brothers at one point.
Yes.
Yeah. But you know, I'm trying to think. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know Lara. He had a good fight with the former champion. Was it? Now I gotta look it up. Jared Hurd. He had a great fight with Jared Hurd. It was a great fight. But also he's been guilty of being in really boring fights. The Gasha fight, that shit was awful. You don't even remember that fight, do you? Do you even remember that fight? I think we were just like halfway, like we were watching. I'm like, all right, we gotta go take a piss, and then like we disappear, probably looking at girls or like the Corona girls that were there.
But you know what it is? It's especially with Lara and the style of boxing, which is most people want to say a Cuban style of boxing. It's mostly pure boxing, nothing too fancy, nothing coming in for slugs, for combos, for
always points. They box for points.
It's more like Olympic style boxing.
Yeah,
for
like
sure,
like tap 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 tap. You know, I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful art when they're fighting somebody. Who they can dominate. You know, it's a really beautiful thing to watch Cuban fighters dominate inferior competition. But sometimes when you see Cuban fighters at the highest levels, like they really tend to stink it out because like they're afraid to get knocked out. Lara has been guilty of that. I remember the Canelo fight. I mean, he could have won it, honestly. You could argue that he did win it, and you could argue it was a draw, which it was, I believe, right? Was it a draw? Or no. Canelo won?
Canelo,
okay.
Split decision. But that fight was very close because Canelo couldn't connect.
Yeah.
He was hitting him with hard shots when it needed to be, but it was pretty much him chasing Lara.
Yeah, like you could say that fight, Lara was outboxing him in little like spots, but for the most part, his inactivity and his like some say running, some say elusiveness. I consider at most that night he was running. He really just he didn't do enough to take the championship away from Canelo. And especially knowing that you're going to be fighting Canelo Alvarez, although this is 2013 or 2014. Let's see. The fight with Alvarez. 2014. Yeah, it was the fight. I think Alvarez fought somebody after Mayweather, and then they fought. It was Lara versus Alvarez. And when you fight Canelo Alvarez, even though this is like 6 years ago, he's still a big name. So you got to take the fight to him, and he didn't do that night. So I mean, we're getting off track. I'm so sorry, guys. But it's gonna be Erickson Lubin, who he has rebounded since that first round knockout loss to Charlo versus Terrell Gasha, which is I think he rebounded as well. But nothing. He hasn't fought anybody of note. It's going to be a fight between two middling contenders. Lubin, you could say, has a higher ceiling. I think Lubin is just way more talented, and he's pretty much going to just dominate him. And just use his power. And Lubin's a lefty, so he obviously always tricky matchup. I think he's just going to dominate Gasha. From what I've seen, Gasha, he's nothing special. He's a decent technician, but at the end of the day, nothing special, especially at 154 with a bunch of like contenders at 154. Hey, what can you do? It is what it is.
That's a pretty huge age gap as well, because Gasha is 32 and Lubin is 24. Right?
Yeah, Lubin is still really young. I think he fought that triple header was in like 2017, so he was only he was 21 when he fought Charlo. And although Charlo was young himself, like that's tough to ask a 21-year-old prospect to come up fighting the champion. It's tough. I was actually surprised. Usually you don't see that happen often. September 26th, we have a pay-per-view doubleheader with the Charlo brothers. We have Jamal Charlo, the one who fights at 160. He's fighting Sergey Deveryachenko, who
Wait, hold on, Jamel or Jamal? Hold on.
Jamal is the one who fights at 160.
No, but Jamel
Fights at 154.
But he's the one that's fighting the guy that you just said.
Who?
Jamel, right?
Yeah. So Jamal. That's this is the one at 160. I know it gets confusing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
So Jamal Charlo actually. So he's fighting at 160. I think the last fight that I saw him fight, I believe he fought somebody else, but the last fight I saw him fight, like I was watching, he was fighting. I gotta look it up now. He was fighting this Russian guy, Russian lefty, who was actually honestly whooping his ass. Like Charlo wasn't hurt at any point of the fight, but he was just like he was getting worked pretty similarly to how Mauricio Herrera was working Danny Garcia, you know?
Yes.
So, I mean, I think it was a lot closer because I think that Herrera clearly won that fight, even though and they didn't give it to him. But you know, I thought he was winning. Let's pull up the name. His name is, he fought Matt Kobarov. And I remember I saw that live. He fought Dennis Hogan, you know, nobody. Brandon Adams, nobody as well. But Korobov, I think he came, I think on short notice, I believe, and a lefty from Russia, and he was actually outworking him. Like he was like when you see a lefty outbox a righty, like when you see a righty not sure what to do, like I saw that often in that fight. I personally thought that you can argue it was a draw, simply because like, you know, Korobov did get hurt a couple of times, but, you know, it was very close. So, you know, I just think the Charlo brothers, like, at a certain point, I thought they're fucking good. And then the past couple of years, like, they've either, like, they always, like, fight down to their level of opposition, you know? And even in big fights, they never seem to, like, really, like, be impressive, you know? Like, I mean, it's really hard to do that at the elite level, you know? Like, to fight like Pacquiao fought, you know, you could put a bunch of his fights, the Cotto fight. We thought it was a toss-up, and then it was for the first couple rounds, and he just dominated. Like, you know, or like Mayweather Canelo. Mayweather just dominated the fight, you know? Like, to show that, like, yeah, you got to be a super elite, not just elite, but super elite. And we never really seen a performance from the Charlo brothers. I mean, you can argue Jamel and the Lubin knockout, but that wasn't a big fight. But they rarely are very impressive, you know, at the highest levels. They're usually, like, close fights. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, 154 is loaded, so is 160. But it is what it is. So, you know, we have Jamal. He's fighting Sergey Deverychenko, who fucking gave Triple G a run for his money. Yep. A lot of people thought he won. I thought it was a draw. But at the same time, I've never seen Triple G really in trouble like that. Even I thought that you could argue Deverychenko fought a better fight than Canelo did in both fights. You know, and Deverychenko is nothing special. We all know he's nothing special. He's a Ukrainian fighter. You know, nothing special, but it seems like he doesn't have any weaknesses. What do you guys think? I'm gonna go, you know, to the video. This is what I'm doing for our podcast. I gotta do manual labor here.
So definitely this fight coming up in September for Mr. Charles. I personally think it's definitely a step up to, like you said, his previous fights. Yeah,
because Deverychenko is not super athletic or talented, but he's just B+ in everything.
Very
like, there's
solid.
No weakness. Yeah, he's
very
super
solid.
He's
very solid.
Super solid.
Very solid. Yeah. So for Mr. Charlo, for him to try to adjust to that, and like you just mentioned, we've seen previous times where it's a little difficult for him to get the rhythm in the first couple of rounds, and then as the fight progresses, he starts letting those hands and starting to adjust. But of course, we're talking about fighters he has faced in the past that weren't up to his par, to say, respectively. But now, up and come this fight, it's not going to be the same case. It's going to be up against a very, very solid opponent.
Yeah.
So this is very intriguing. I definitely want to see his adjustments early. I want to see how he takes up competition from this point on.
I think that Derevchenko is gonna win. I think that's my kind of like upset special. I think most casual boxing fans would probably be like, "Oh wow, really?" But I think most boxing hardcore fighters, insiders would say, this is a toss-up. Charlo is not guaranteed this win because Derevchenko is as tough as it gets. He's tough as nails. Olympian. He's been, in tough fights. He gave Triple G a run for his money. He gave Danny Jacobs a run for his money. He's not somebody that you're just like whatever with. He has a vast amateur background and he knows how to fight. The man knows how to fight, as do many Eastern European amateur fighters.
Correct.
Yeah, Ukrainians you can argue like nothing special athletically, but very, very well trained and very solid in terms of skills. Like a lot, like African fighters. A lot of African fighters, they're very, very like in terms of technique. Their technique is very sound. Defense is very good, and maybe not the most exciting offensively, but regardless, they know how to fight. They know how to box. They know how to fight. They know how to fight all types of different fights as well. So hey, I'm saying Derevchenko is gonna win. Probably I'm gonna say probably split decision. What do you think?
A toss-up.
Toss-up?
It could definitely go either way.
Yeah. What about you, Kitty? What do you think?
I don't really know much about both or watch either of them, but I'm excited to see it.
All right, okay. So moving on next to the schedule, on the doubleheader, we have the other brother, Jermell Charlo, who fights at 154. He's fighting to unify the titles with Jason Rosario, who is actually coming from a big knockout win of Julian Williams, who Charlo actually knocked out a couple years ago. Remember that? I think it was 6th round. It was a beautiful knockout. J-Rock, even though he got knocked out that fight, and he got knocked out by Rosario, which in a great fight, might add. I think it was a homecoming fight too. He actually lost, in his homecoming fight. Rosario really just, bullied him in that fight. And it was surprising to see because we all, J-Rock, he beat Hurd. He beat Hurd in D.C., where Hurd is from. He took the belt from him. He beat him. And we all knew J-Rock can box, especially that fight. He was on another level. The type of movement, angles, he was just working Hurd. He fought exactly how you need to beat Jared Hurd. And then he comes to fight Jason Rosario in what, you could argue is a tune-up fight for a rematch with Charlo, or, to unify another belt. And he gets knocked out by Jason Rosario, a Dominican fighter. So we have Charlo, who lost to Tony Harrison in the first fight. Lost to Tony Harrison, which many people believe that he actually won. I believe, but he showed a lot of weaknesses in the Tony Harrison fight.
Correct.
And then in the rematch, he knocks out Tony Harrison. Although Tony Harrison, you could argue, actually fought a better fight in the second fight. Even though he got knocked out, he fought a better fight than the first fight. So the Charlo brothers are obviously, the past couple of years have shown a lot of weaknesses that a lot of boxers have seemed to capitalize on. Even though they only have one loss between the two, it's not a lock anymore. Like a couple of years ago that we just, if we heard that Charlos were fighting, we knew, okay, yeah, they got that. Now it's a little bit more tricky, especially with, 160 is a, top-heavy division, but there's a lot of contenders there. And then 154 is loaded as fuck. Jason Rosario, J-Rock, Jared Hurd, Erislan De Lara. Is Austin Trout still fighting? He's not a championship contender, but he's always that guy that will give you a good fight.
He's always down to fight.
He's always there to scrap. But 154 is loaded. Mm-hmm. So Jason Rosario, we have this guy who's from what I've seen, effective inside fighter. He has a lot of moxie. He has a lot of tenacity. That from what I saw in the J-Rock fight versus Jermell Charlo, who is coming off a big win and getting his belt back from Tony Harrison. So me personally, I think I just think Rosario doesn't have the type of experience to beat Charlo at this point. Charlo, the one thing you can say about the Charlos is that they both have really good chins. I don't think I've ever really seen them hurt. Maybe I've seen them buzzed, but never like hurt where you're like, oh shit, you know? I think Charlo, I'm leaning between unanimous decision and late knockout in this fight. How about you? Did you happen to catch the Rosario J-Rock fight?
I seen highlights. I seen clips of it. It's at the time I think I might have missed it for work or something, but of course it's definitely one, like you just said, definitely a very surprising outcome. Great fight, and to move forward to a prediction with Rosario and Charlo, it's gonna be very interesting. I think I might say the same. I think later rounds Charlo definitely. I seen him against Harris more like aggressive that second round. I mean that second fight around. So I coming into this fight, I think he's definitely gonna use more of that aggressive tone. Definitely not try to slow down early rounds, and yeah, I think later rounds he's definitely gonna want to try to.
Yeah, I think the first two rounds are gonna be feeling each other out, and then I think it's gonna be more of a slugfest after that.
Agreed.
The October 10 fight, we're just gonna run real quick because it's a Sergey Lipinets, you could argue top 10 welterweight, but I don't see him coming into the title picture anytime soon. Versus, I'm not even gonna try to say his name, but it's Kudratillo Abdukharov.
Sounds good enough.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Sounds good enough.
I'm sorry for messing up your name, sir, because you can probably kick my ass. But Lipinets, the man who retired. Man, what's his name? Wow, I'm really forgetting names today. This is crazy. Hold on. See, now that I have my computer in front of me, all I'm doing is looking up stuff and try to actually using my brain to actually try to think. But
is this a title fight?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Lipinets retired. No, it's not. Lipinets retired Lamont Peterson. So yeah.
Wow, I totally forgot about that one.
Yeah, he retired Lamont Peterson. Really good, inside fighter, body puncher. I think he lost against Mikey Garcia. It was competitive, but Mikey Garcia clearly won.
Yep.
I think I don't know much about the other guy. I'm gonna go look into it, but that should be an entertaining fight. Usually, it might be one of those hidden gems. Every year there's always that random couple of fights that just or oh shit, that was a good fight.
Agreed.
Okay, so now getting to a couple of big fights. We got October 27 pay-per-view, Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz, which I'm hyped for because Leo Santa Cruz for years has been a pound for pound, top 10, a guy who sticks around in the top 10. You could argue. Top 15 most of the time. Majority of the time. Top 10 maybe, depending on who you ask. But Leo Santa Cruz, experienced, rugged. Rarely do you see him hurt. His work rate. His work rate is fantastic. He's gonna fight Gervonta Davis. Very talented lefty. Headed by Mayweather Promotions. He had a big push a couple years ago. Seems like he kind of stayed stagnant a little bit. I think he was waiting for big fights, but hey, the last fights I saw him though, unfortunately, was even though he won, he was fighting a one-legged Yuriorkis Gamboa. Gamboa tore his Achilles, which is also the same injury that sidelined Kobe for a year. When you tear your Achilles is the strongest tendon in your body, and when you tear that, you basically cannot walk. And he still went 12 rounds against Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis also one of those guys that just seems to. He talks louder than his fighting is. He's exciting when he's engaged, and he's a lefty, and he has tremendous power. But he talks a lot, and I thought he's gonna be a bigger star by now, but he talks a lot. So, I mean, he's going to fight someone in Leo Santa Cruz who only lost once against Carl Frampton in their first fight, which was a great fight in itself a couple years ago. Won in the rematch. And, pretty much, he's been a mainstay at the lower weights. Yeah. So, maybe not a star, but just under what a star is, Leo Santa Cruz. Is one of those fights that you get like high, like A-, B+ fighters in the same matchup.
I think for what Leo Santa Cruz is, as of a late 2 years, I don't think he has been given opponents like he was before.
Yeah, at like 122 to 126.
Correct. So I think for both fighters, this is definitely a matchup that both need. If you think about Gervonta Davis, I think up until this date, it's really his big test. I know a couple of years back they wanted to put Maris against him, but
no, actually, I think that was supposed to happen this year.
Yeah,
it was right. It was supposed to happen before Corona fucked up everything.
Correct.
Yeah, and that would have been a good fight too, because Maris, he got knocked out and he lost to Leo Santa Cruz twice, but he got knocked out that one time in the first round. Other than that, he had 2 losses against Leo Santa Cruz, but they were all possible candidates for fight of the year.
Correct.
Those were also very good fights. So, he was a good, Mars would have been a good fight with Davis too. But now we have Leo Santa Cruz, who I think is actually better. You argue, obviously he's better. He has less losses and he only lost one time, Carl Frampton. And fighting Gervonta Davis, which is a step up. He fought Gamboa, but Gamboa is already long in tooth, very he's already old, and he was injured in that fight, and he couldn't knock him out.
What weight are they fighting at?
I think they're fighting at 130 or 135. Let me go double check that. Let's see. They are fighting at.
Yeah, I've seen Leo Santa Cruz fight, and he's a tough fighter, tough opponent.
Oh, so they're fighting for the WBA regular lightweight title, the regular title, because the WBA apparently doesn't have enough belts already. They have a regular and a super title, which I don't understand. So they're going to be fighting for at 135.
Yes, and it just makes sense too. I know in the previous past, Gervonta Davis, he always had trouble making weight at 130.
Yeah, and he's short, which is surprising. I think
5'5".
Yeah, he doesn't live.
5'5".
He doesn't live well outside of the ring. He's one of those guys like he gets in shape for fights and then just lets himself go, partying and stuff like that. I mean, or smacking his baby mama. We all saw that video. I don't condone hitting a significant other. So, for that, he's an asshole, regardless. But yeah, he seems to not live well outside of the ring.
Yeah, and you know what? He likes to take a lot of pages off of his promoter's book, which is Mayweather.
Yeah.
Whether good ones or bad ones.
But the dedication is definitely not there.
Yeah, correct.
Like, it's only there when there's a big fight.
Correct. And listen, this fight here with Leo Santa Cruz, for 135, we seen him physically just being a very long, lengthy kind of fighter. Yeah. His jabs are always going to give anybody issues. So it's going to be very interesting to see the physical matchup against these two fighters. Like you said, Gervonta being a smaller fighter, Leo Santa Cruz being a very lengthy, long jab. He throws a lot of volume punches.
Yeah, he's not a big. He doesn't have a lot of power. His volume of punches overwhelms people. So I mean, it should be a good fight. I'm gonna go on a limb and say Leo Santa Cruz by majority decision.
Agreed.
What about you?
I'm taking Davis on this one.
Yeah, because
23-0.
I mean, yeah, but
I've seen his knockouts.
I mean, he got popped. I mean, Leo Santa Cruz is moving up in weight, so it's not gonna be the same. Like he's always walked through punches at 126 and 130, but maybe Gervonta Davis stops him. I think it's more likely he probably wins by majority decision, and the second most likely outcome is probably Gervonta Davis is gonna knock him out. That's probably the second most likely. So we're gonna just skip to the last fight on the schedule they released December 12th. We have Nordine Oubaali versus Nonito Donaire.
Filipino pride.
Yeah, long time mainstay at 118. He tried going up to like 122 and 126, and I mean he just got manhandled. I think he was just too small for those divisions. But then he went back down to 118, and he had a Fight of the Year candidate with the monster Inoue.
Yes, it was in a super tournament, correct?
Yeah, it was the championship of the World Boxing Super Series, I believe.
Yes. And I clearly remember this super tournament was basically set up for both fighters to fight in the end too, which both Donito Donaire and this remind me again his name, Japanese fighter.
Oh, Inoue.
Inoue, yes.
Naoya Inoue.
Yes.
The monster. Let's just call him the monster.
The monster, yes. Monster.
That was Fight of the Year candidate right there.
Correct. Very good fight.
And for people who regulars, obviously, they don't really pay attention to a lot of like the super flyweights and stuff like that. And the light bantamweights, 112, 114, 118. So it was a really good fight. It was one of those fights that you can put on and show people, hey, this is what the lighter guys can do. This is how exciting these fights can be. And a lot of people forget the lighter the weight classes, the punch output usually goes up.
Yep.
Because just naturally lighter fighters who don't get as tired as the heavier weights. So it was a great fight. Donaire got hurt a couple of times. He also hurt Inoue for the first time. First time that Inoue was ever like visibly hurt. Also in that fight, Inoue ramped it up towards the end and really started ramping up his offense. But Donaire was right there with him. Donaire was like trading with him, even though he was getting hit. Even though he was getting hit with certain shots, he was just like not going down.
Yep.
It was one of those fights that shows the best in boxing. Two guys, good guys. Class professionals who just put everything on the line for that championship fight and just really made an impression on people who love boxing and even people who happen to just catch the fight and aren't necessarily boxing fans. They really were. It was an ambassador, a fight that you can introduce. Two ambassadors of boxing, good ambassadors of boxing, putting it out all on the line on that fight. It was really good. Yeah.
Well said.
So I mean, so we have Donaire fighting Oubaali, who I've caught a couple of times. Good amateur fighter. I don't know too much about him. Donaire is getting older, so maybe he's already, he's already been past his prime, but he's been also very effective. Especially in that tournament he was in. So maybe he lost another step, and maybe he's he's already towards the end of his career, but we don't know how much he has left in the gas tank. So, we might get upset. We don't know. I still think Donaire wins. Probably, I think he probably wins by knockout. But, who knows? Who knows? Especially when you deal with older fighters.
Yeah, but hey, one thing that we do know is the Filipino Flash always comes out to fight.
Yeah, he's rarely, if ever, in a boring fight. He's always there to scrap.
Except when you're fighting the Cuban fighter at the Garden.
Rigondeaux, yeah.
Rigondeaux, yes.
Yeah, Rigondeaux stopped the Donaire hype train. That's when he started having problems.
Except when you're fighting Rigondeaux.
Yeah. Now that we have PBC down, there's been, the Zone has been trying to get some fights themselves. ESPN Top Rank had a couple fights already. The Zone is trying to get their boxing schedule in order, and they signed Canelo to a 10-fight, $300+ million deal. They gave everybody they signed, they gave above market contracts, you can argue, and Canelo is the one, their gem, the one that they're putting everything on. Really, the fights have been meh. I mean, he did fight Jacobs. He did fight Triple G the second time. Was the second Triple G fight on HBO or was it on DAZN?
It was no. This was before DAZN.
DAZN, yeah.
And then, as of recent, Triple G got signed to DAZN.
Right after, yeah, because he wanted to chase the third fight.
Correct.
Right?
And the reason why he also signed with DAZN was to potentially get a third matchup against Canelo.
So, I mean, right now DAZN is trying to get their boxing schedule in order. They have a lot of fighters who they spend a lot of money on, kind of just sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to happen. They want Canelo to fight Triple G, and we've already heard rumblings like they're both going to take tune-up fights and then for sure fight in 2020. But there seems to be a friction with Canelo and DAZN because DAZN was adamant about making a Triple G fight sooner rather than later, I think last year. And Canelo was just not interested, which he preferred. They wanted him to fight at the end of 2019, Triple G. He ended up fighting, Kovalev, which you can argue was a great move because, he knocked out Kovalev. I mean, Kovalev was winning that fight.
And he went up in weight.
Yeah, and he went up a weight. He went from 160, picked up a whatever title at 168 against Rocky Fielding, which had no business being in the ring with Canelo. Mm-hmm. And then he fought Kovalev at 175, which is very impressive. Very impressive. Kovalev is not the same Kovalev, but he knocked him out, even though he was losing the fight.
Kovalev was winning the fight up until he got knocked out.
So, he won. He's a multiple division champion. I think he won at 154, 160, 168, and 175. So he's a 4-division champion. And DAZN wanted him to fight, Triple G. He did not want to fight Triple G. I think there's a lot of acrimony and a lot of like ill will between the two camps, which is ironic because leading up to the first fight they were very congenial and very respectful, and then after that it was just like after the decision we all knew. I mean we all agree Triple G won the first fight. I think most people agree that Triple G won the first fight. And then they fought a second time. It was close. Some people say Canelo won it a little bit. I thought it was a draw. I think if there was a draw to be given, it was that fight. I thought it was that fight.
The second fight?
I thought the second fight was a draw.
So my views on that fight, watching it with my dad, we both had Canelo winning. He was throwing the harder punchers. He was the aggressor. He was chasing Triple G, which we never seen Triple G get chased. He's doing the chasing. He's doing the hunting. Mm-hmm. To your comments about the first fight, I do think he lost. Canelo lost that fight, or it was a draw. Most people had a draw, or he lost. But yeah, second fight, I think Canelo clearly won that fight. But again, everybody has their personal opinions. Yeah. Now with DAZN, I think just recently DAZN just had a fight card on TV, which we're gonna get to later. But yeah, there's been a lot of fighters, like you mentioned, that are on the sidelines. They've been overpaid by DAZN, and I think mainly has to do with the reason DAZN, being a new company, wanted to take these fighters from other promoting staples and build up. Yeah,
it seems like they picked up, like when HBO got out of the boxing business, it seemed like DAZN was the one who picked up all the business.
Correct.
From HBO. So, they, fledgling company, and, they wanted to pick up all these fighters, and, trying a new business model in boxing, the streaming service model for boxing, which is admirable, And
you know what? This is what they're doing so far. It's actually pretty good. They're working alongside with Golden Boy, Matchroom Boxing.
Up until the coronavirus hit, of course.
Correct.
Yeah. But now they're kind of like on the fence now because they kind of want Canelo to take a pay cut. Mm-hmm. Because there's no gate revenue anymore because you can't have an audience, which in boxing obviously pay-per-view is king. If you can get a pay-per-view fight, you want people, you get a lot of money from that. But the gate also is a lot of money, especially if you're a big boxing star. People are willing to pay thousands of dollars to sit ringside. And now that you cannot fight in front of fans, there's going to be a significant loss of money. And, DAZN wants to hedge its, hedges investment by, asking their fighters to take a pay cut. Now, I don't think Canelo agreed. I believe that they're trying to work something out. but I don't think Canelo agreed. What do you think? Do you think Canelo should take a pay cut or not?
So
I think Canelo's a little bit of a diva, so I think it would be hard for him.
It's difficult to say because, thinking about it, going into a contract with so much money, especially in the sports, with boxing being a very difficult, grutted, rough sport, and you're sacrificing so much. So I don't know in terms and specific details with Canelo's contract, but hey, if you guys previously agreed to something, then maybe honor it. But again, as of all of us, we all know COVID came in and messed everything up. Out of pure, I don't want to say guilt, but just understanding, maybe Canelo should understand that these times are very difficult, not just for the sport of boxing, but for everybody. We're all paying in some way. We're all taking pay cuts. So it's hard to say, but hey, why not? Maybe take a pay cut.
Yeah. If you want to fight, and they're trying to set up everything for you, I say, make some concessions. Now, I'm telling you, take a significant pay cut? I don't know. I don't know the finances exactly. But if you want to fight, bro, and, he's almost 30 now,
29.
29, yeah. So he's entering his prime. Don't waste your prime. At the end of the day, don't waste your prime because you can only make more money. Yeah, you might if you concede some money to DAZN, add a sweetener. Be like, yo, when things come back, if we get a big pay-per-view fight, I want X amount of money extra, right? Okay, cool, do that. Talking about coronavirus, going to MLB, now switching gears to the MLB, we have the Miami Marlins. They had a coronavirus outbreak. I believe 14 players or 14 players and personnel, tested positive over this past week.
Wow.
Canceling their home opener in Miami and essentially kind of derailing, I won't say derailing baseball, but being a possible derailment of the MLB season only a week in to a weekend from, games being played. So this is crazy, Hey, we talk about all the precautions and all that stuff, but Florida, listen, we've seen Florida. Those people do not want to wear masks. They don't care. They don't believe the coronavirus is real, and it makes, not to talk shit about our Florida viewers.
We love Florida.
But
especially Miami.
Yeah, but you got to get these people to wear some damn mask. No one's taking away your civil liberties. You can still do the same things you want to do. Just wear a mask. So now, the Marlins got their home opener derailed. And this could be...
All games till Sunday, actually, as well, right?
What, from Miami or for the whole...
For the Marlins. For the Marlins, all their games are postponed through Sunday.
See, there you go. And imagine if one team ends up testing positive, and then infects another team. And then they go on to... What happens when 3 teams get tested,
No, for sure. This could definitely lead to a domino effect, ideally.
Yeah.
It could affect so many things.
Yes or no? I want an honest opinion from both of you. Will the MLB season be played in its entirety without any interruptions from coronavirus?
Wow.
Do you think we're going to get through the season? Do you think that they're eventually going to cancel it or they're going to actually make it through the season? Yeah, they might have some complications. But do you think this MLB season will be played in its entirety?
You know what? To answer your question, if the MLB was doing something similar to the NBA, I would have told you, I don't think it will affect the MLB, their schedule. But of course, they're not in a bubble for what I know of.
But to be fair, it is tougher as baseball because not only, the MLB played some of its season, so invited specifically 20 teams, right? Mm-hmm. And then they told them, hey, you have to come to Orlando and stay here and no one can leave, right? And NBA teams are only 12 people, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to a baseball organization where you have not only you have 25 players, but you also have, coaches, the manager, you have
staff,
medical staff, you have personnel staff, video staff, you have all these elements of a baseball organization, and you need to do this for 32 teams, and you need to tell these teams, you cannot leave this bubble. You have to stay here, and you have to stay here for X amount of months. At least the NBA season is 10 games plus now the tournament. You could say NBA playoffs. It's not the playoffs. It's just a fucking tournament. Yeah, so now we get to this point where you have to play 60 games in a bubble. And those 60 games are going to be spread out, between 2.5, 3 months, plus the playoffs. You know, it's a tall order. You know, it's a different situation, tall order. So, I mean, what do you think? Do you think they're going to get through the season in its entirety or not? Personal opinion.
You know what?
Gun to your head. Don't even think. Don't even think. Yes or no. Go. Let me hear it. I don't even want you to say.
I say
yes
no.
or no.
I
No?
say no.
Okay. What about you, Raul?
Positive, yes. I want to be positive.
All right,
yes.
we have a positive poly here. I think we gave him a couple of coronas. When it comes to when you give a Mexican a couple of coronas, anything is possible.
But look, it's hard to say. I mean, it's literally our first time where we see a sports organization go through something like this, facing the big factor, which is Corona, COVID-19. It's, who knows? Everybody's new to this. We're all new to this. So it's just a learning experience, what to do, what not to do. We shall see.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Yankees all day. But anyways, we touched upon the NBA. So did you guys happen to catch any NBA games, after the restart happened?
Couple of scrimmages, yeah.
Wait, was it the scrimmages or the actual games being played?
I think the actual games start July 30th, from what I read.
Oh, okay, so I'm tripping then. Wow,
everything else has been a scrimmage.
Oh wow, so I'm really, I'm definitely really out of it. Bad sports host. But yeah. So I mean, did you catch any of the games? What did you guys think? Meh.
Exciting. You know, from what I saw.
Hey, being 2, 3, 4 months away from any sports, it could be a scrimmage, a 5-on-5, a scrimmage game. I'll watch it.
I'm down to watch co-ed dodgeball at this point.
Yeah.
I was, like I said, I think the last episode, I caught myself watching women's water polo, which I'm not saying anything about women because, women's water polo, they go in. They are rough. I would be scared to play water polo with them. I probably would drown and no one would notice if I played women's water polo. But yeah, so the NBA had a couple of scrimmages. I'm like meh. I maybe have a certain point of view on it because I don't feel like this is a real season anymore because of the corona. But you guys, my brother is a little bit more into the NBA than I am.
Correct.
Raul, he's down for all types of sports. It seems the soccer leagues in Europe kind of got their shit together,
Yeah, they picked up exactly where they left off.
Yeah. But to be fair, they also don't have Trump as a leader, so that's why they were able, they're able to control the coronavirus and not have to deal with the nonsense we have over
Well
here.
said.
Not political. This show is not political at all, but fuck Trump. And I have friends who...
That's just how we feel.
Yeah, and I have friends who are Trump supporters, and, I don't hate or anything like that because it's politics at the end of the day. You cannot change anybody's mind if you're just yelling at them. But, that's just how I feel. The show is not political, all right? The show appeals to everybody. We may touch on politics every once in a while, but, yeah, Trump is a puta. Not... just saying. Okay, so the NBA coming back. We'll see how it goes. We still have a couple of things. They have a couple, hurdles to pass through. Lou Williams grabbing wings from the strip club.
Magic City.
Magic City. He genuinely said in an interview his favorite restaurant is Magic City, which I believe him, but I also believe it's also a treat to have wings and see titties at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm pro sex workers, by the way. We're all pro sex workers. We do not shame women for their bodies. If you can make that money, you do you, boo boo. Okay.
Do what you gotta do.
Do what you got. Because if I was a girl, I would have had my OnlyFans on deck. As soon as Corona hit, my OnlyFans would have been lit. But then again, I don't know. Who knows? But going back to boxing, switching gears again, we wanted to, come across Vergil Ortiz, future welterweight star.
Yes.
We were talking about it on the way here. I saw his fight. I saw highlights. I didn't see the fight, but I saw highlights. Just dominated him. Yeah, just a classic boxing example of rising prospect versus middling. A fringe contender.
Yeah.
Fringe contender in Vargas, and he just dominated him, outboxed him, dominated him, worked him. How fast until we see Vergil Ortiz in a title fight?
All right. Well, to answer that question, you got to really see who's champion at 147, which the big top dog is Errol Spence Jr.
And Crawford.
And then Pacquiao. Now, he's young. I think with his age and his skill sets and his boxing career, don't push him just yet into a title position. As good as he is now, as impressive he looked against Samuel Vargas, no rush. Don't rush it.
You know what? You're right. He's young. He's really fucking good. And he's very polished for such a young fighter. Boxing, in terms of financial sense, take your time with him. Wait till the other welterweights get a little bit older, right?
Correct.
And then put him up when he starts rising, his talent level and his experience start being in sync with one another. And then put him up against the welterweight, those welterweights when they start getting a little bit older. We have Crawford, who's already in his, he's just in his prime, but he's also 32, I believe. Spence, who's turning 30, I believe, soon. Porter's already, 30. Thurman's already past 30. Pacquiao is 40 something, still whooping ass. But yeah, by boxing sense, yeah, take your time. Push him when he needs to, and then it is what it is. Technical difficulties. Our background just went out, so my apologies. But yeah. So but at the same time, you know what? As a Pacquiao fan, Pacquiao ain't have shit. They put him in title fights from the get when he was like 19 years old. So listen, I'm all about, if you're in boxing, you're in boxing to win. If you're trying to make money, yeah, there's a certain way to make money. But you know what? Let's see who's special ASAP. Let's see who. If you get the chance, you know what? That's the one thing I would say about Ryan Garcia. He talks a lot of shit, and I don't fucking like him as a boxing, media personality. But the one thing you could say, hey, at least he's making noise about a title fight, right? Even though he's way not ready. He's way too inexperienced to get a title fight right now. But at least he's calling for it. And I think most fighters, I'll say most fighters are all about getting the title fight, no matter how old they are. Especially when you're younger, you're like in love with your abilities. But yeah, I just say, hey, let's go for it. I honestly, I probably see Vergil Ortiz in a title fight probably mid 2021.
Okay.
I say mid 2021. He probably wants to fight now, but I think the welterweights have business with each other.
Yeah.
I just say, hey, take a couple fights against some top 10 welterweights that aren't champions, and then see where you stand. He is young and he's very talented, but yeah, maybe he's ready to go now.
Yeah, and he's been very vocal too about potentially fighting Errol Spence Jr. They're both from Texas. They're both kind of.
He's not getting that fight. He's not gonna. Well, he's not anytime soon. He's not anytime soon. With the money to be made with Spence Crawford, and especially if Spence looks good against Danny Garcia, because he had that car accident. So if he does look good and it looks like the Errol Spence of before the accident, then that's gonna be a big ass fight. probably you can argue could be the biggest fight in boxing next to Fury, Anthony Joshua, and Canelo Triple G3. You know, those are probably, that could be up there, right up there with the biggest fights. You know, but let's see how it goes. Vergil Ortiz has a lot of time in the game right now. He's still young, and we'll see what goes about.
Agreed.
We wanted to cover the heavyweight division. We touched on it a little bit, you know, on our last episode. It's top heavy. All right, we have the King, Tyson Fury, Gypsy King, at the top. We have Anthony Joshua, who did get knocked out by Andy Ruiz, but got his belts back in an impressive fashion by outboxing Andy Ruiz. Part of it was Andy Ruiz being I like Andy Ruiz, but he was a lazy sack of shit in that fight. I like Andy Ruiz a lot. I was very happy when he won the first fight and incredibly disappointed. Just as happy as I was in the first fight, as equally disappointed in the second fight. And then you have Deontay Wilder. We have a list where it's top heavy, and then we have contenders in there. Alexander Povetkin, who's I think scheduled for a fight with Joshua at one point. We have Joe Joyce. We have let me look him up. The guy from New Zealand,
Joseph Parker, right there, former champion. And we have, you know, it's a very top-heavy division. We also got the Dillian White and Derek Chisora. Mm-hmm. And then we have the newcomer to the division, Alexander Usyk. Oh, yes.
He's nice.
Yes.
So
game changer.
Let's go through this division. Let's clear up this picture for the division. Okay, we have our top three. Okay, we're gonna say Tyson Fury number 1, Anthony Joshua number 2, Deontay Wilder drops 3. Okay? We have a dark horse contender, Alexander Usyk. Yeah. Okay? Then we have in the middle of the division, you know, just in the thick of things under the elite, we have Derek Chisora, who got knocked out by fellow contender Dillian White. And we have, Alexander Povetkin, who, you know, depending on how much steroids he's been taking, you know, he's always in the picture. I'm not even sure if he still is in the picture. I got to double check if he's still active.
He's top 10 for sure.
Is he still fighting? I'm not, you know. I remember he did get knocked out by Joshua.
Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, okay. You also got, Joe Joyce, who fought recently, won impressively. He looks slow as shit, but, you know, you can't deny that he's, you know, he has some hands on him.
Yeah.
And I know there's a couple of prospects up in there as well. So that's the picture of the heavyweight division, all right? Most anticipated matchup, what would you say?
I will have to say Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua.
Okay.
I think after this third fight, which is eventually going to happen, I don't know when, but Tyson Fury against his rematch, which was Deontay Wilder, after that fight gets rid of, I think the most appropriate fight would be Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury.
Okay. All right. What about you, KJ? What do you think?
I mean, from when I'm looking at the stats, the top two guys, like you said, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Joshua has 3 titles. Tyson has that WBC, so
he also has the lineal title.
Who does?
Tyson Fury. So the lineal title, for people who aren't, completely in the boxing know, is the man who beat the man. You can be the lineal champion by beating the previous lineal champion, or if the lineal champion happens to retire or has injury, or leaves the division, you know. But in heavyweight boxing, there's no other division to go up to other than going down. Leaves the division. There's a fight between the consensus number 1, number 2, or general consensus of the best fighters. usually builds up after a year when a lineal champion departs his title via retirement or leaving the division. So Tyson Fury is the lineal champion. He beat Vladimir Klitschko, who was the lineal champion, and he is the man right now at heavyweight. So my personal, you can argue it's either going to be Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. I would love to see Alexander Usyk get in there. I don't think Usyk can beat Fury, but I think that he can beat Joshua and Wilder. Oh, King Kong Ortiz is also in there as well. Another lefty, a fellow lefty like Usyk. King Kong Ortiz, who I think it's tough because he got knocked out twice by Deontay Wilder, and I honestly think he could also beat Anthony Joshua, and he could also, you could argue he could beat Deontay Wilder again if they had a third fight. It's not going to happen because he got knocked out twice, but he won a majority of those first two fights.
He had great rounds against Deontay Wilder.
You can argue the second fight, he did not lose a round.
Yeah, well said. Yeah. I had the same outcome. He was fighting. He was actually winning the whole fight up until he got clocked.
Yeah.
He got knocked out.
Yeah. So, we have interesting matchups there. I think at the end of the day, the buck stops with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is the man. Wilder and Joshua are going to get their shots at him. Wilder's going to get his shot at third time. He exercised his rematch clause. Joshua is waiting in the wings to see what's going on. Do I think he's going to take a tune-up fight? Possibly. I wouldn't fight anybody dangerous like Usyk or King Kong Ortiz, but he probably will take a tune-up fight if unless they give Wilder some step-aside money and then have him fight the winner between Joshua and Fury. But then you have that, and it's interesting. It's the top three are interchangeable. You can make fights with either of the top three, right? And then you have the Usyk, who I think that he needs to. I think they're trying to match him up with Derek Chisora right now, which is an interesting match. I think that just Usyk is trying to get his feet wet. I think he needs like one or two more fights before he starts taking on the champions. Agreed. Because really nobody is clamoring for Usyk to get a title shot yet. They still want to see the top three guys go at each other first. So, I like Usyk in that position. I don't think he can beat Tyson Fury, but I think he can beat the other two guys on any given night. And, it's interesting. It's an interesting situation that we have. Everything is on pause right now in the boxing world. It's a little tough. But, eventually we're going to get to that point where sports are going to come back, hopefully. And, we're going to see boxing at its finest again, So, guys, our second episode, knocked it out. I mean, not knocked it out because clearly our setup is state-of-the-art, no problems whatsoever.
More to come, guys.
More to come.
More to come.
More to come.
Work in progress.
We're going to have a soundboard eventually. We're going to have my brother making random noises.
We might have some ring girls.
Some Corona girls. We can maybe get some Corona girls here.
Pass by.
Or Corona guys.
Show face.
Or Corona guys for the ladies. Because we want to appeal to the ladies as well. All right. We're doing the damn thing, and I'm really proud of us to get this thing going. With our shiny gold microphones.
Yep.
There we go. Looking all pretty and shit. So it's an honor to do this podcast with you guys. And I'm really excited to what the future can hold. Let's make it as entertaining as possible for our viewers. I know that we're not exactly the most interesting people in the world. No, but you know what? Okay, yeah, we are.
Come on, man.
Why would you want to watch anything else, right? But yeah, we are here to offer the best of what we know, boxing and sports, and we just want to bring you guys along on this journey. And we appreciate anybody who's out there listening and offering their support. We're gonna start setting up the YouTube. We're gonna explore avenues to put our podcast on, hopefully on Apple or SoundCloud. We'll try to, put that out there, and then, we're going to promote it on our Instagram and have all the information there ready to go. But we are excited, for this endeavor, and we want to bring you along, and hopefully we can make this a bigger thing, and we can really offer a particular insight that some people may not have. We're three New York kids, born and raised New York kids, Queens, New York. What up, bang bang. We are passionate about our city. We're passionate about our sports, and we're passionate about boxing. Well, I mean, KJ, we're trying to get him in a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm getting in there.
He getting in there,
Give me some time.
Yeah, and Raul, you've sparred, boxed. You love it. Same thing with me. I train people as well. My brother, by the way, my brother has a right hand from God. He's just too fat and lazy to actually want to work out in boxing training, but he has a right hand like OD hard. Yeah, no, all the way hard, like full hard, like no pause. All right, but yeah, we are just New York kids that are passionate about sports and boxing, and we just want to share that with everybody who happen to be listening, and hopefully we can spread awareness of our podcast and do interesting things. We're gonna be introducing new topics, new portions of the show. Mm-hmm. We're gonna try to keep this thing as fresh as possible, mm-hmm. and you may even see my titty at one point. I may flash the camera. And if you're just listening to this podcast, I may like rub my nipple on the microphone, just so you can hear the sexiness that it exudes from our bodies. But anyways, I'm just joking. But I just want to say before signing off, thank you so much for listening, guys. And from Kyle, Raul, and KJ, we appreciate all the support and all the just your attention in general. You have any words, Raul, to offer?
I think you said it best. The only thing
I talk a lot of shit, by the way. You can tell me when to shut the fuck up. You could just be like, yo, Kyle, cut it off. This is what I would suck in radio, because I don't know how to shut the fuck up, unfortunately. So, but yeah, thank you guys for listening to the Honey Bunches of Goats podcast.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
And hopefully we'll have more music, more sound things, and
hopefully guests.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get some guests here.
We're definitely gonna have special guests, guys.
Raul has some special guests in the cut, so
it'd be funny if we actually get like a champion boxer, and then he could bring him down.
We will.
And then he'll be like, "What the fuck kind of setup is this shit?" Be like, "Yo, we got beer and Henny." Oh, okay. All right, I fucks with you. So hey, any boxers that happen to come across this podcast, we got Henny over here. 3308 Queens, right? Broadway, between 33rd and 34th. Ask about us.
Ask about us. Trust me.
Bang. All day. We get lit over here, but we don't get lit like Miami. Okay, we get lit like grown adults. Have a good time. You get yourself home. No hookah. You drink like adults here, and we party and dance like adults. So 3308, bang bang. There goes the plug-in. Bop, bop, bop.
The only Corona we have is the beer, not the virus.
Y'all know
Exactly.
the vibes.
Yeah. So we get a lit over here. So we wanna thank my father, Gus Ayala, and Paul Parsekian for allowing us to do our show here.
The owners of 3308.
The owners, great people, and
the best.
We this particular bar, we are open for everybody. We want everybody to enjoy themselves here, and anybody who's been here has always had a positive experience. And if maybe a negative experience, it would have been out of our hands, but we like to keep everything in line and in check, and we want everyone to have a good time and get home safe at 3308. Yeah, I do work here part-time as well. So, but yeah, so from Kyle, KJ, and Raulin. We're signing off. Thank you for listening to the Honey Bunches of Goats podcast. Our episode number 2. Episode number 3 will be coming next week. We will be uploading our show number 1 and number 2 on YouTube. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate everything, your support, and yeah. Anything dope you have to say right now?
I guess where can we find us?
Oh yeah, our Instagram, Honey Bunches of Goats Podcast NYC. That's our Instagram handle. Yeah, so if you want to reach out to us, we're going to be posting our information there. We will also be posting our information on our personal Instagrams, which we will have on the podcast Instagram available for if you guys have any questions. Hopefully we'll have a Q&A section as well coming up, where people will just offer their questions, and we can answer them on the show. And you can reach out to us on Instagram, and we'll try our best to acquiesce to all of our listeners out there, even if there's no listeners yet. But anyway, guys, signing off. This is Kyle Ayala,
Raul,
KJ,
and thank you so much for listening to the Honey Bunches of Goats podcast. Have a good night, guys, and God bless.
Peace.
You got knocked the fuck out, man.